and today we are going to be looking at the latest polls in every state as of right now. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. And so the first state's going to be the state of Washington. We have a plus 14 poll out of the state. The previous poll actually had Biden doing a little bit better. So his lead is actually decreased a little bit from the last poll that we have out of the state. And what I think is very fascinating is that Biden actually won the state by 19 points in the previous cycle. This is a 700 voter sample size with a likely voter type. So, and polls tend to actually underestimate Donald Trump here by a couple points. So we could expect about a 9 to 12 point victory in the state of Washington, which is actually similar to what my forecast has. My forecast has a 7-point victory on the horizon in the state of Washington, but the latest poll has it as a 14-point victory. The next state's going to be the state of Oregon, where Donald Trump is trailing Joe Biden by 11 points in the state. We see only 250 registered voters, so pretty low sample size. And we see RV is the type of, it's a registered voter sample, and it's all the way back from April. And RFK is getting a really large amount of the third-party vote here, which, third parties tend to be pretty prevalent in Oregon, but I would find it pretty impressive if he actually got 19% in the state of Oregon. Joe Biden won this state by 16, so an 11-point shift would not be good. And Republicans, especially Trump, get underestimated here in the presidential polling data, so that is not a good sign for him either. In the state of Nevada, we see a 7-point lead for Donald Trump. The last lead was a 3-point lead in the state. Now he's expanded it to 7 points in this latest poll conducted literally just yesterday, essentially, or 2 days ago at this point. 800 likely voters. So that is a pretty good sample size. Trump almost nearing 50% in the state of Nevada. Just absolutely amazing. That's going to put the state in the likely Republican column. And if we look at Arizona, a 5-point win. Biden did actually catch up from the last poll. The last poll actually had a 10-point lead in Arizona. The latest poll only has a 5-point lead, so Joe Biden has closed the gap. But again, there is no third-party vote, so that may kind of skew the way the aggregate looks. And we do have a likely margin in that state as of right now. In the state of Colorado, the same poll from the last video, 800 voters are registered voter from June, basically the 17th to the 24th. This poll's almost a month old, but it does have Joe Biden winning the state by 10 points. That is going to put that in the likely Democrat category. Now, in the state of New Mexico, we only have a 1-point lead. This poll was from June 19th to the 24th, which was pre-debate. And we see Biden only leads by a single point. This is a huge improvement from the 7-point lead he had in the previous poll. RFK being in this is definitely going to skew the results. But the fact Biden only leads by a single point in a state he won by 10 points in the previous cycle is only going to spell electoral disaster for Democrats in the coming election cycle. In the state of Hawaii, we also have, an 8-point lead for Joe Biden in the state. We see the only poll with third-party candidates included has Biden just at 42%, Donald Trump's at 34%, RFK being at around 8%. Now, the sample size is pretty low, but again, it is pretty hard to get a high sample size out of the state of Hawaii, but the fact it's only an 8-point lead is very abysmal for Democrats. In the state of Texas, we have a 10-point lead. June 29th till July 1st was the latest sample. 589 likely voters. We see Trump ahead by 10, and polls tend to underestimate Trump there by 4 to 6 points. So that would basically provide a 15 to 18 point victory in the state. So that is very fascinating. The latest poll in Nebraska 2nd does have a likely victory. I hope we can get more polling data out of there soon, because the polling there does actually look, somewhat competitive, but the latest poll does actually have Biden up 5 points. In the state of Iowa, a Trump plus 12 lead is here. We saw the latest lead was a plus 18 lead with third-party candidates included. This one does not have third parties included, but does show a likely lead for Trump. We see here July 8th to the 9th, a 600 sample likely voter screen. So a decent sample size, and it is a likely voter screen. So that is going to put the state in the likely Republican column. In the state of Illinois, we have a 9-point lead. This was conducted all the way back in October. I'm very curious to see what the polling would actually look like now, because that was conducted all the way back in October of 2023 when Biden had a much better shot at winning the presidency. The race was a little bit more competitive back then. If we look at Ohio, we see that Donald Trump is up there by 10 points in this latest poll from June 29th till July 1st. We see a 600 likely voter sample. So that is going to put Donald Trump in the likely Republican column in that state there. We also see in the state of South Carolina, as of right now, that's going to be a 14-point lead for Donald Trump. This poll was done all the way back in February, so that is definitely going to show, a major shift, and it does have a very high sample size. This was probably done because of the primaries and stuff, so that is pretty interesting. That is going to put the state in the likely Republican column. In the state of Florida, we have a 6-point lead from mid-July, just very, very recent, 800 likely voters, a 6-point lead. Now, polls tend to underestimate Trump in the state of Florida by 4 to 6 points as well. So a double-digit victory could be very well on the way there. North Carolina, a 9-point lead. The latest poll, July 15th to the 16th. We saw the polls get pretty tightened up here, but the latest lead, Trump just completely expanded his lead here, and we see 1,000 registered voters there. So that is a pretty high sample size. And then in Georgia, we see, if we actually go to the state of Georgia, there is a 3-point lead in the state of Georgia. Trump at 47%, Biden at 44%, and we see it's an 800 likely voter sample from the 15th to the 16th, and we see the polls technically did narrow up there, so that is going to put the state in the lean Republican column. And then we have Virginia, the latest poll from July 14th to the 15th. Only 265 likely voters, actually has the state as only Biden +1, so that is pretty interesting. That is going to put the state in the lean Democrat column as of right now. Donald Trump is in striking distance of winning the presidency. We see Connecticut is going to be a 9-point lead for Joe Biden in October poll with 1,000 likely voters done last year. I actually want to see polls out of there, because if the polling was that close back then, very curious to see what it would be now. Rhode Island, also the same thing. A 7-point victory was a poll done back in the beginning of June with 1,500 voters. So that is pretty interesting. And we see Delaware is around a 10-point lead based off examining the RFK, polls that have the percentages of Trump and Biden. We see about a 10-point lead there. Maine's first is going to be in the likely column, as well as the state of Maine at large being in the lean Democrat column from the latest poll as of right now. In the state of New Jersey, Donald Trump still has that 1-point lead with an 800 likely voter sample. And this was actually done pre-debate, by the way, so that is not a good sign for Biden at all. So that's going to put the state in the lean Republican column, and that gives Trump a victory in the Electoral College already. New Hampshire, in the latest poll, Donald Trump is up by 2 points. A 1,700 registered voter sample with Trump at 44%, and RFK is also included in the poll as well. So that is very, very impressive as of right now. That is very impressive. Their poll back in January actually had Biden up 8 points, or like even more than that for this cycle. I think it was like a 10-point lead for Biden. So Trump shifted New Hampshire in their polling from January all the way like 12 points to the right. So that is pretty crazy. In the state of New York, that is an 8-point lead for Joe Biden. This state was a 23-point victory. Last time around, we see this was conducted in mid-June. 800 registered voters. So definitely, I want to see what that's looking like after the VP pick, after the RNC, after the assassination attempt on the former president. That is going to be a pretty interesting development to see out of the state of New York. I expect a poll that's at least almost going to probably be within 5 as of right now. In the state of Pennsylvania, we have a 4-point lead for Donald Trump in the latest poll, 800 likely registered voters from July 15th to the 16th. So that puts the state in the lean Republican column. Michigan, a 3-point lead from July 15th to the 16th, 1,000 registered voters. So that puts the state in the lean Republican column as well. And the same thing out of the state of Wisconsin, a 3-point lead with 1,000 registered voters. Trump at 46%, Biden at 43%. That puts the state in the lean Republican column. And then last but not least, we have Minnesota with a 1-point lead for Trump in the latest poll from mid-June, going back to an 1,000 registered voters sample. That puts the state in the lean Republican column. This gives Donald Trump 340 electoral college votes based out of the latest poll in every single state. If you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.